Welcome
to the Yes Anthem podcast with your hosts, Kat London
and Rich Aveo.
What's the Yes Anthem?
The Yes Anthem is the inner desire to find the beautiful things in life.
If everyone sang their Yes Anthem out loud, we'd all sing in harmony.
The Yes Anthem wishes you the courage to like what you like,
choose what you want,
and trust what you love.
Enjoy the episode.
Yes.
Hey, Yes Anthem.
Hello, Yes Anthemers.
How you doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I have a story to share with you and share with Rich.
I can't wait.
Yeah, let me see, maybe it was about 12 years ago or so. I want to talk about songwriting circles, which was a huge thing that was encouraged and not just encouraged, but what is the word? Kind of like, ooh, if you can get into one of those. Recommended. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And now in my current self is like, recommended for what? Just because I've grown more intimate with my process with songwriting, that I don't necessarily want to take people's advice anymore, which was 100% of the self that I used to be. Which is, in retrospect, we could put a label on and be like, oh, that's so sad. But it is what it is. I was impressionable. I followed a lot of advice that, is good advice. We don't really love that word, advice, anymore. But I followed a lot of it thinking that would be my, the golden ring, basically. Like, oh, your songwriting career is a little floopity-doop,
Key to the castle.
Why don't you make a lot of friends and it has done that for me, songwriting circles. But I want to share a particular devastating songwriting circle. I'll call it a circle. It's funny how they call it a circle, but you're rarely sitting in a circle. I was in New York, just to give you some background. This is the story. I'll try to make it punchy. I haven't told it in a while. I was in New York, very, really, really good songwriting, what is it called, class. Class. And the teacher, at the very first assignment, there were 8 assignments, and the first assignment was write a song about a person you know, or like a neighbor. They had a bunch of different ideas of people you would know, and I'm like, yes, I would know a neighbor. And immediately I was like, holy shit, let me write. And at the time, I was very folk-driven, big fan of Jewel in my youth. And I'm like, I was borderline folk, borderline just that regular songwriting style. I don't know how you would, that Ed Sheeran stuff before he went mega pop.
Yeah.
And
traditional singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wrote a song about my babysitter, Lillian. She happened to be my babysitter. I wasn't like, my babysitter, Lillian. It wasn't like that. It was from a mature perspective of a girl who knew this woman. Right. And I am obviously the shadow of a girl who knew this woman. And what was great about Lillian, she was just a freaking angel. And she loved Aruba. She loved scratch-off tickets. She had a really cool fake slot machine in her house. She had handheld Yahtzee and handheld solitaire. She taught me how to play cards.
She lived life.
She lived, and I know how to play cards because of Lillian. And so many. I'm so glad I'm sharing this story. So many good things are coming up from my childhood. I remember saying out loud to, I guess, my parents or whoever would ask, when I grow up, I want to be a card dealer in Atlantic City. And this must have taken place after, when I was in kindergarten and first grade, and I was only I want to be an artist when I grow up. Is
because of Lillian that gave you this ambition
Lillian.
To deal cards in AC?
And I got so fast at dealing cards, and she taught me how to do the bridge.
Nice.
Which is still so cool.
Raising a hustler here.
Oh, man, I was super hustling. Watching Nickelodeon, eating bologna sandwiches, and
living life.
Eating these little ass pickles. What are they called? Gherkins?
Gherkins, yeah.
Gherkins, bologna sandwich, lettuce, mustard, white bread, and then a little cup Of look at that little baby
nice
dressed
jar
as a
gherkins,
gherkin.
baby.
That's cute. We should just get a kid.
Nothing wrong with a sweet
dress
gherkin.
as a sweet gherkin, just to be our. Maybe a gherkin is the logo of this podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
I should be a pickle next Halloween.
Oh God, please.
Call myself Rickle.
It's Rickle. Your name isn't even Rick. Richel.
A Richel?
A Rick.
Pickle Rick.
A Rickchel.
Maybe Pickle Rick for Halloween.
Pickle Rick. Oh yeah, there you go. That's
Perfect.
It. All right.
Me and Ming are on the same page with this one. Anyway, I'm sidetracking. I'm sorry.
Steam ahead.
I'm
full
sorry.
steam ahead.
Tell me more about Lillian.
Now I can't just. Now I'll always be just seeing pickles instead of Lillian. But anyway, I was seeing sevens, and man, that machine was hot in her house whenever I would play it. But I wrote a song. I decided to call it "Gambling Girl," and it went. Oh, Lillian had an itch to win, so she scratched all day, hoping that this sin would free her from that old blue house she was living in. Just to give you the speed of what it was chock full of lyrics, chock full of metaphor, chock full of truths.
Storytelling.
Very storytelling. And it was about some really cool shit, but it was fingerstyle, and it was maybe just shy of 4 minutes long. The melody the melody was the same for the chorus, slightly different for the verse, and it was same for the verse, slightly different for the chorus. It was a tagline chorus, and is that what it's called? Well, the point of this story is I don't freaking care what songwriting form is called anymore, because it will really ruin your creativity and make you fall out of love with music. That's the moral that we'll get to. And it was like, okay, it was very pretty. Everybody else in the class was writing. I don't know if they were like more experienced than me. Maybe some of them were. They were writing pop or very country-y folk. And I was not into country. I was more into songwriting style. So I presented. You had to present your songs at the end of this assignment, and it did not go great. Like they were like, okay, they just really non-remarkable. I think maybe the remarks were like, it's a little long, it's a little boring. It was kind of the general malaise that went over Gambling Girl, which was kind of like, all right, motherfuckers, like let's see what we do for the next 7 weeks here. Let's go.
Okay.
Anyway, final week, surprise assignment. You were allowed to write anything. There was no prompt. And you and I decided, I brought the song to you, and I forget the extent of the assignment.
It's fine.
It was like you could either bring like a song that you wrote outside of this class. It allowed that. It was like write a fresh song, no prompt, or bring a song it was like a good show and tell. So I was like, let me do a weird combination of those and not tell anyone. And I brought Gambling Girl to you, and you, because of the feedback they gave of like boring or whatever, you're like, I don't know what they're asking for here. You put a kick behind it and some piano, right?
Yeah,
we produced the whole track.
We zhuzhed it up.
We zhuzhed it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's really nice. And it keeps the feel. It keeps the poetry. Well, I presented that song, and I didn't say fucking anything. And the teacher said, this is the 8th week. He goes, Kat, that is the best song you've written this whole class.
Yep.
And I didn't say one fucking word. And I went, thank you so much. And granted, I was slowly dying over that 8 weeks anyway, just because of people's feedback and other people who I was supposed to be writing songs with that just were lazy and not doing the assignment, which is another fucking thing. Growing up, I was literally like, I will never volunteer to be team leader on a project because I always would wind up being the one doing it. All the compliments, and because he was complimenting it, everybody started complimenting it. Oh my God, these lyrics. Like all the things that everybody else heard and had a printout of my lyrics on that first assignment was all of a sudden given all the fucking like, yeehaw. And that's when it all changed for me. And that's why I'm telling this story today. Because I want to, I just want to entertain this idea of things. If you remain, and it's funny, like I don't think I can really button this up, but I knew to stay quiet. I knew, but
to not say, by the way.
For me, however, I think the new me, like now, would say, yo, it seems like you all are not aware at all of this, but this was the first song I wrote, and then I would have fucking flipped the desk and walked out. Instead, I was like, let me just feel resentful for the next 10 years about song critiquing, but also wondering if I did not really achieve the success that I was after as a songwriter, if it is because of something I didn't take away from that class. Like, is the class good or is the class just pure evil? I don't know. But yeah, that really, as far as feelings are concerned, I think it hurt my feelings, but then it got me angry. And then when I get angry, I would just like be on this freaking mission to prove everyone wrong for the next decade of my life. Because I live multiple decades.
Okay. So tell me about, I think that's a great story. And I think.
Did it make you feel anything?
Yes.
Like when it happened?
Yes, but hold off on me for a sec.
Oh, thanks.
I think I want to hear about. I think it'd be helpful to hear about the relationship that you had with the idea that if you want to do this, then you have to do this.
It was tenfold.
Right.
It was big.
So you go into this class with like high hopes, and you're like, "Oh my God, so and so Nashville guy just told me like if you wanna make it as a songwriter, you really got to go to these things, and they come highly recommended by people who are in the know, right? And you just follow advice. So I want to hear your take on not so because I think it's obvious, right? I think the obvious line here is that nobody knows everything, and like. People with opinions are like people with assholes. Like everybody has them. Most of them stink. But in
the industry, they're like, no, take this guy's advice, take this girl's advice.
It's
whatever.
Almost like,
and I'm like, I'm young. Tell me how to crack the code.
Yeah,
Which reminds me of that stupid songwriting thing that we also took later.
That'll have to be a whole separate episode in itself. But yeah, sorry. So I want to hear your perspective on. And I want to get to like the perspective of what this means in art and in the industry in general. But I'd like to hear your personal perspective on going into this class on week one, not necessarily knowing what to expect, but having expectations, right? And then proceeding with this class for how long was the whole class? 8-9 weeks?
Yeah.
So, and then like one of your last weeks, if not the last week, you present the same song that you presented week one that got meh reviews. In the moment that they gave you like you did it. How did it make you feel about the industry? How did it make you feel about the entertainment industry as a whole?
Well, it just confused me further because I was a rule follower and I was always
right.
And I was like in school and everything, very very high achiever. College, not so much. Theater kind of took me by its arm there.
But and
the songwriting thing was after college.
Yeah.
But I was definitely a rule follower as far as like society was concerned. So it just led to confusion, which led to resentment because I know then no one was going. I was like, I guess I'm just gonna have to figure this out myself. But at the same rate, there were still other routes that you could take that would lead to like oh okay, like yeah, if you go on tour you meet people or whatever. It's hard for me to answer that question because I'm just going to say it felt really shitty and I hated it and I was like, this was a waste of time and I spent so much fucking money getting into the city. And the same thing for UCB classes. I spent so much fucking money on this class and getting into the city, and I was learning fundamental improv with people who didn't want to do improv for the rest of their lives. They were just actors trying to like hone their improv skill. Half of them don't even have a troupe. I'm like, then what is this? I can't even come up with what it's like. It's like going to chemistry class, but there's someone from the social sciences who are like, well, I'm just in this third level chemistry class because I just really need to, I don't know, I want to get like an understanding about chemistry. But meanwhile, me, the chemist, ready to like rock and really apply myself, is partnered with this social sciences person who's not really in it to win it. It was kind of very frustrating. So I guess what I'm saying is with classes and learning specific roads to take with art, it's bullshit. And I'm very and always willing to crack that egg open with whoever I talk to, because I fall subject to it too. Even now, I'll be like, if someone like Tony Robbins is like, oh, I'm doing like this hour seminar thing, it's free. We all know that they're trying to upsell you at the end for like a bigger class or whatever. But I do like to seek information. But then I was like, wait a second, this information is bullshit, and you're not listening to my song. Why am I here? If it is going to crack open opportunity, which I think I walked away with like one buddy who I haven't kept in touch with, but he like booked us in Boston, remember? At the like American Made Fair. It was very cool. Yep. But it cracked open nothing. And not that I was like here to network and that's it, but I was here to like be allowed to be a songwriter. And that's the problem. I was like, this teacher is going to tell me what I am allowed to do and if I'm good enough. And with art, I think you just have to leave that up to you. Like the art is what were you saying that Prince said to me?
Yeah, I'm holding on to this.
No, I need you to say it now.
Yeah, okay.
Say it now because I need to tie that into what I'm saying.
When you create a piece of art, you already know it's what you wanted. You're proud of it.
Right.
The moment you create it, it's the moment a critic throws an opinion on it to try to validate it within the industry or within society that it creates doubt and it creates conflict with the art, and then you kind of almost lose your love, your organic love for the art. I'm paraphrasing.
And it's because I lost my love for the art because I don't mind it if I'm like at a gig and the room is slowly emptying out because I'm just not connecting, I'm not nailing it, the lyrics are weak or whatever. That's something I can learn on my own through people, and then like maybe I can crowdsource and be like, what was wrong with it if we're going to talk about art like frickin' science here. But after I do a few gigs, one can surmise that maybe I need some work on my end. But this was like, here's a gatekeeper, Kat. He's going to be teaching this class. This gatekeeper is going to tell you whether or not like you're even on the right track. And every critique they had about my music was something fundamentally me.
Right.
It was not like, I wish it was more like, it would be really freaking cool if like the rhyming pattern was an A-B-A-B instead of an A-A-A-B. Mm-hmm. That to me is cool because it opens up creativity and doors that I never thought of, that a song like this, let's say it's a bright, happy song, maybe I want to hear more rhyme, more quickly, because rhyme is very playful in general. If you're rhyming, although Shakespeare would say, no, like rarely sad, at least in the way I write. This is a personal thing. I rhyme a lot. But yeah, this gatekeeper was like, squishy, squishy, all the things that you are. And I'm like, wait a second. And I didn't learn how to songwrite at all. I didn't learn. All I did during that circle was listen to 12 other songs every day or every week. And I grabbed onto nuances they were including that I liked. And then I borrowed from like those people who were like nailing it for what I enjoyed. Because they would get critiques too from this dude. A lot of them wouldn't. He loved their stuff. But I would borrow, and I grew. My songwriting did change. I started playing piano, actually. because someone recommended to play piano in that company. And I was like, oh, wow, you're right. This is really helping my poetry come forth. That was probably the best advice that I got. It didn't come from this gatekeeper, though, this songwriting guy. He was more like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, wait, gambling girl, that's the same fucking song. How do you not?
Well, can I give you my perspective on the story?
Yeah, you seem like we can, you seem ready, and I'm so ready.
I just wanted to listen to that because I know that's an old story. Yeah. I was with you for it.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
From the beginning to the remake and the representation and the bullshit.
Yeah.
Review.
Yeah.
First of all, I think it goes without saying that art is personal.
Yeah.
There's no formula for art. You can watch a masterpiece film, you can watch a masterpiece show, listen to a masterpiece piece of music that literally breaks every fucking rule that says, do this if you want to sell this, right? I think art is a personal expression. So I'm not going to tell you, I can't tell you, even if I have experience expressing myself really well, I can't tell you to change the way you're expressing what you're really feeling inside. Because all I'm doing is telling you how I would have done it. I'm not necessarily helping you. Now, you can learn. I can give you perspectives. I can certainly say, oh, well, rhyming. There's like skill sets I think you can improve. And most certainly one of the benefits of, songwriting classes or things like this, stand-up comedy classes or whatever, These are things that I think every professional will tell you to stay the hell away from, but every aspiring professional is like, you got to do that if you want to get in.
Yeah.
The only benefit I see from any of these things are the friends that you can make. And like you might meet somebody that's like-minded and as driven as you and really good and and you guys can bounce ideas and you can grow.
It's such a waste of time to me sometimes. And that's like the weaker part of me speaking because I never was someone who's like, networking is a waste of time. But I think when people go after, like now, like our current selves, I'll show up at a songwriting circle. I've even hosted multiple ones because I knew that it would be safe. I knew I was making positively sure that I was going to invite people who I wanted to take care of and that I wasn't going to bullshit. And not that everything, and it's not like, oh, I like this about, just liking. But there is something to be said about when you're coming at telling people of change this. It's like, all right, why am I here? Like, oh my God. Yeah. I don't know. And someone might be like, Kat, shut up, because that's why you go to school, is to be told that you're wrong. And I'm like, there's some kind of weirdness there.
Yeah, my overarching perspective on it is I don't particularly see anything wrong with classes of any kind, but I do see a lot wrong with the way we educate one another in the world. I think
because we're always told
the way we educate,
trust our teachers.
Yeah, well, that, and we're also kind of told that, like, we're not told that the teacher is a human, right? We're
absolutely.
So we go in as kids learning that, like, oh, I'm in math class right now. If I don't understand this topic, it's probably because of a deficiency on my part.
Absolutely.
And so, like, you fast forward 20 years, from elementary math into your, intermediate advanced songwriting class in New York City with like this accredited songwriter. And then you get in a class and then that teacher tells you an opinion.
Yeah.
It's even harder to teach something that's not scientific like math. I mean, 2 + 2 will always be 4. There's really no way you can kind of argue that.
And we're all adults. Like I think even in, like, when I was going to school, like in college, I was like, yeah, funny how, like, Mr. blah, 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 my teacher in elementary school was allowed to, like, do that because, like, that was wrong. Like, we could laugh about how public schooling was, like, they did all of a sudden become humans. Like, they weren't, like, the gatekeepers, like, in retrospect. But then you're like, I expect when I go into the adult world that everybody is on point, everybody's got their shit together. Nope, not at all. We should also be reminded that even if an adult, no matter how old they are, that there is no such thing as seniority, and that they also are flawed in everything. I just lost all trust because I thought for 8 weeks that I was really doing poorly. I'm the weakest link. I was most certainly the weakest link.
I promise almost everybody in the class probably felt exactly like that.
Maybe. And then on the final day, I was like, well, let the weakest link play her final assignment. And now all of a sudden everybody was like, what? And I go, whoa, you're all a bunch of liars. I'm out. Peace. And then I was like, I'm going to do music the way I want to. But it wasn't that freeing. I was still tied to but why is the industry allowing this guy to teach? There has to be a reason. There has to be something I'm missing. It went back to, like you said, a deficiency. Although I was angry and fueled by anger to be like, fuck everyone, I was still the little kid in class going, I don't know, but they still got the job. There must be something I'm missing.
Yeah, well, and I think I think it's a conditioned thing just based on seniority and just the educational system. I mean, Think about it, right? Not 20 years ago, maybe more recent than that, people were taking advantage of the casting couch situation. So you would have been told by someone on the rise in the film industry that look, it's just kind of like this. If you do want to get into movies or whatever, you're going to have to kind of just do whatever the producer wants you to do, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Even if it's nothing lascivious, but you're going to have to kiss their ass and go get them coffee whenever they want and do this, that, and the other thing.
Wait a second. You're going to have to tell the coffee falling story.
Oh, Jesus criminy. Yeah, well, I think there's a tie-in here, right? So, yeah. So, again, I'm not coming on this show to badmouth organizations, but I will say this: it was for a very big television show that requires an audition to be a part of, and that audition requires your demonstration of your talents. Let's just put it that way. And the show,
I don't know who you're hiding from, but
the show happens to rhyme with the schmois, and. So anyway, so I get a call back. I go in for my audition. They were they gave me really great feedback, one of the producers, and they said, we want to call you back for round 2. So I go in for round 2. And what's the Ripley Greer? Is that the real famous studio in the city?
Yeah, it was one of them.
That's where it was, So I heard lore of this Ripley Greer joint. So already going in, right? Yeah. I'm like, ooh, this is a real thing. And look at me, right. Gatekeepers.
Ooh, am I enough?
The higher ups are allowing me in the building. Yeah, there it is.
I've done many a Broadway.
Making my blood run cold.
Broadway audition at Ripley Greer.
So that's exactly right. So and that's exactly. So that's me thinking ooh, all these Broadway auditions happen in this room. So anyway, I go in and I wait for what had to be 13 hours. It was just all damn day.
It's the worst.
And so anyway, I finally get called in a group. They call you in a group of 5, and then you wait outside your audition room where the television producers and the casting director are waiting inside. So they call my group in finally, and we're standing outside. And someone goes in before me, and I hear them singing, and then she comes out crying. And I'm like, hey, brother. I was like, okay, this is it.
If you cry out, man, you got to fucking get your life together. Anyway,
so then another girl goes in. She goes in, and she's actually crushing it in there.
Yeah.
Comes out, emotionless. So I'm like, don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Now it's my turn to walk in the room. And they go, actually, hold on a sec. It's lunch break or whatever.
The worst.
So I'm like, oh God, literally it's just me and 2 other people. Can't we just So one of the girls who was one of the producers goes, it's actually better
it always is better.
Let them
audition after lunch.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm and in my mind I'm makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And she goes, we're just gonna do a quick coffee run. Just hang. We'll call you back in. Okay, cool. Let them get their coffee. I mean, I know how nice it feels to have a little boost with coffee. Boom. So they call us back in, myself and the 2 other people who were cut short for the thingy. And they come walking through with a big, thingy of Starbucks coffees. And then one coffee cup flops off this thing and splatters all over the floor. And now I literally see everybody turn gray. So I'm like, okay, like, I get it. It sucks, but like they go, oh my God, that was Kevin's coffee. And I'm like, that's, sucks to be Kevin, I guess. So they call me in, and it's clear who Kevin is. It's clear. Not only because he's the only one without a cup of coffee in front of him, but because his mood indicated that
he was the director or something.
And he was a pretty higher up producer of the crew and staff, and he was the kind of the one running the show. And I'll just go ahead and say it was the rudest I'd ever been treated in my life. Like, for no reason, I didn't like ask you guys to come out. You know what I mean? Like, you actually invited me here. So
yes, that's what I love about the dichotomy of auditions and
stuff. Not only that, but
impress me, and you're like, it's your show. Do you want to make money with my talent?
Right. And also, well, this is important. I'm glad you said that. If I do well at my audition, which, by the way, I've already been vetted by one of your crew, so it's not like I just like knocked on the door and walked in. Yeah. Like, I proved that I was like worthy to be here right now. If I do well, your show does well. So why don't we all play nice? And if you don't like me, that's fine. But don't set me up for failure by like being rude and mean to me. I don't care how much coffee you needed. I'll fucking dunk you in a vat of coffee head first. You know what I mean? If that's what you need to like be decent. Anyway, so it was a really rough experience, and I did the best I could. And they said, do you need an instrument? And I said, yes, so they like dragged out this like crappy keyboard with no sustain pedal, and like two of the keys were broken on it. And in my mind, I'm like, I could just sing a cappella, They were just like, nah, it's okay. So I was like, fine. They set it up like this low, and I was like standing up, no chair. Anyway, long story short, worst audition I've ever had in my entire life. It didn't end well. But I often think to myself, like, if that scene hadn't been set before I walked in the room with the disappointment from the spilling coffee and the grumpy guy who needed it so badly that like maybe he would have been in a more open, welcoming, yes, Andy mood, maybe he would have seen what I offered as something with potential instead of just going, fuck this kid, I'm not in the mood, get out.
I'm sure it would have been different.
So you have to wonder then, when you brought your song in to the songwriting class on day one, is the gatekeeper there that day giving you a real opinion, or are they making it up on the fly to justify the job they have, which is to critique your music?
So I was just going to say, I think in order, like with artists, they will flex at the high standard or whatever, at the high, what am I trying to say? Whatever. What am I trying to say? Whatever you just said, the job they have.
Yeah.
And
to flex their position or whatever.
And if their position does have like final say over other people's, which a lot do. Like, you're not going to find like, intern, what do you think? Granted, the best movies always have the director going, I don't know, does the lighting up have anything to say about this directorial
then the color
point?
changes and gets brighter, and it's like, ooh.
Yes, and that's how life should be, actually, is like, if you're at a loss for anything, we're all afraid to lose our jobs, and I do think aggression with the upper tier comes from like, why am I here? I better have opinions. I better have something to say. Even when I was copywriting a bunch of times, like copy editing, I would get feedback back where I'm like, no. And then I would have, luckily, like someone with me to read the feedback as well. And they're like, no, that's kind of bad feedback.
Yeah.
But my higher up had to critique something that I wrote. And I'm like, well,
can I tell you, can I? Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to tie it into something you said about the job. Or is the songwriting coach bringing his best self forward? Even do they even realize?
Yeah,
Do they even realize that it affects the student?
Right.
Because they might just be in their own world going, I'm not feeling so well today. I was up late last night. Oh well, I'm going to do my best to mask the fact, perhaps over-mask the fact that I'm tired today. Not realizing that all you're over-masking with these students, the students are going, oh, wow, I suck as a songwriter.
it's subjective.
If they're extra critiquey that day or something.
Sure.
You know?
Or look, I mean, there are days that I'll just wake up, not necessarily in a bad mood, but I might not be in the mood to listen to my favorite artist. My favorite artist.
Yep.
Like, normally on any given day, if you played Stevie Wonder for me, I'd be like, leave this station on. Yeah. I'm down for this.
Yeah.
But there are days that I just wake up and I'm just like, you know what? I love you, Stevie, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
So like you gotta wonder, right? Like these gatekeepers in the business, like these people whose choices are responsible for the futures of people who work really fucking hard and have a ton of potential.
Yeah.
These people are not without flaw.
Right.
So like I think there are just as many people who get through the door and fail and flop as people who get turned away from the door that could have been a wonderful decision for those people and like maybe possibly made their business better. Yeah. Made their show better, made their team better. We know whatever the audition is.
Which is why, and that happens constantly.
Of course.
So you have to find your own worth. I know you were going to say something prior.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hopefully it still ties in, but
I think it does.
You have to, because that runs rampant, you got to just find your own worth, whether you were allowed to be on the Joyce or
Schmois.
The Schmois.
Yes, it's
the Schmois or
that's
not.
That's the U.S. title.
Yeah, definitely.
It's different over in Germany.
Absolutely. Yeah, but if you're a young kid, not even a young kid, we're all young. Mm-hmm. I don't care how old you are, you're young. It's whoever you were around and whoever gave you the encouragement toward a certain thing. If someone, like, right after that class, I met them at the door, you told me, like, fuck them. And I respect you. But imagine if someone also gatekeepery, like, at the time we were at whatever level we were, but imagine if there was someone who held position over you who was also like, Kat, listen, that's a really shitty story. Fuck that guy. I would have been like, I'm absolved, like, I'm free, like, I won't harbor resentment for the next 8 years like I did. All fine and good.
Here's where you and I have an interesting divergence in our personality types and our upbringings.
Yeah.
I was also an overachiever as a kid. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about this the other night from a different perspective, but in my overachieving way, I was also brought up to believe that not everybody's opinion is correct.
Yeah.
So I was rule follower. I was a definite rule follower and a people pleaser my whole entire life. However, I was always willing to fight somebody for my opinion.
Yeah.
Meaning, and this was the story I was going to tell you earlier. You're familiar with this story already, but in the 7th grade, one of my school teachers was teaching us. It was probably science class. We're learning about the Doppler effect.
Oh, right.
And he's going on and teaching everybody about the Doppler effect and da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, does everybody understand? And class was kind of like, and he's like, all right. So he tries to dig in a little deeper. And so, like, here we go. So the Doppler effect, right. Now I'm glad. Okay, actually, Ming, that's the perfect right there. The one right below it. Yes, thank you. That's perfect. All right. So as we see in the diagram here. Oh, I'm so glad this is. Oh, dude, man, I wish there was Google in the 90s. Holy crap. All right. So the teacher's teaching this thing, and I'm going, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And he goes, does everybody understand? And the kids are like, meh. And I'm like, yes, I get it. I get it. And he's like, so can you help? Can you explain it to the class? I said, sure. I said, so the farther and farther the sound source gets, this is 7th grade, by the way. Now, I've always been a musician, so I understand how this could have been a little nerdy for people, but it is exactly what it's explaining here. So, for example, if an ambulance goes by you, the farther and farther away this ambulance gets, the lower in pitch the siren sounds. Yeah. And he's twisting his face up at me like, and I'm like, no, wait, all right. So like when and I said this, like when a cop car goes by you, it goes as it gets farther and farther away.
Yeah.
And he goes, right, but can you explain that? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
The sound waves get farther and farther apart, and I said, and then the pitch gets lower.
Yeah.
And it was the word pitch that he didn't like because he didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the pitch gets lower, and I'm like, doing this to him, and I was a very animated child like I kind of am now.
Just a good asshole.
And he goes like this to me. He goes, I don't know, Richie. And I go, no. No.
See, I would have stopped 5 minutes ago and went, you tell me, teacher. Right. Ooh,
and the kids in class are laughing because they're like, holy shit, because they know my personality. And
yeah, not my personality. It's my personality now-ish.
But I will say this. During that time, Kat, if my adrenaline and anxiety could be measured,
up.
I mean, it would be bubbling over the cauldron here. Like my anxiety, because I'm always, and I still am to this day, if I can admit that, very scared to talk back to people who tell me that I'm wrong about something when I really don't feel that I don't like the word wrong.
Yeah, I don't
Let's
like
not
it
say
either.
wrong. Why don't you just say I don't understand what you just said?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so the tie-in here is that your songwriting instructor, or I'm just going to call him a coach.
Yep.
Your songwriting coach.
Right.
Because he ain't teaching you shit.
He didn't teach me anything.
He's trying to hone. He's trying to sharpen the sword for you.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have the right to tell somebody that they're doing their art wrong.
Yeah.
You don't have the right to say, you can do that better.
Right. Better. There's no better.
There's no better.
There's different routes that you could take to better communicate your feeling.
Yes, and I think there's a scientific approach that one could take in any field to be more appealing to the masses, let's say. If you want to like appeal to a populace,
absolutely.
There's an effective way to communicate. But if I'm presenting a piece of art, this songwriting class was not like how to write a #1 pop song. It was just songwriting, right? Like, was it?
Any songwriting class is always you're after sellability. It was about sellability.
Of course, I understand, and that's pretty much a lot of people's goals. But I think for people like you and me, if I understand like the reason that this thing like really bothers you is because I think like you and I have always, and I think this is one of the reasons you and I connected as people when we met. We love music, we love art, we love theater, we love film, we love all this. And we just feel when you're undeniably good at something, it should be good enough to just connect with who it connects with in the way that it works for you. As long as you feel truly, truly, oh man, like I'm so proud of this. When I finish a piece of music, I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah.
Add a critique to it, and suddenly it just takes it takes the wind right out of your sails.
I think because I was so young, I was also like wanting my connections to not be. I wanted my connections to be lofty people. Like
you want to
impress everyone.
Exactly.
And I'm like, why can't I do that? Why? And that comes from my narrative too, is like not feeling enough in the moment with who I had, with where I was, which like maybe my songwriting did suck. And in retrospect, I like my songwriting a lot more now than I did back then, for reals. Mm-hmm. Gambling Girl, though, I think stands the test of time. But I think it's a great song. It was when he didn't recognize it.
Yes.
And I went, oh, the teacher was tired today. Mm-hmm. Or the teacher was tired in the first one, didn't even listen to... You're supposed
Or you're just making this all up, aren't you?
You're supposed to be a ninja?
Yeah.
Vetted, by the way, by a huge company who is whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how he got through the gates, but he did. And you're just... Because they don't give you the behind-the-scenes look at the show, you're supposed to think that he was there based on merit. Mm-hmm. When he didn't recognize the song at the end, I was like... And it was titled the same.
Yeah.
It was littered with the same lyrics. The melody didn't change at all.
All we did was produce it.
Yep. I played guitar.
We gave it a backbeat. Mm-hmm, we put some cool little back vocal thingies on there.
And then I was like, what the frick? Whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
So I think it's interesting because I've experienced things like this too, by the way. Like when you go into a songwriting circle or a songwriting class or whatever it might be, I think we're fooled into thinking that what they're looking at is this like objective opinion about the writing, right? Like we're gonna talk about the fundamental part of the writing of this song. Mm-hmm. And I think what we learned in your example is that like it's the whole picture of the song that literally could make or break its impact on somebody.
The fact that it all of a sudden became the best thing I've ever written in that class, and I quote, because it had production behind it,
right.
I all of a sudden went, I don't trust anyone, not just this guy. I don't trust anyone in this industry.
Yeah.
And I went, like the gatekeepers, like venue owners and stuff. I'm like, I don't trust anyone.
Because it's all your opinion.
And I will knock on your door as many times as I fucking want if I want to play your venue or if I want to do whatever. And
it's interesting too, Kat.
Politely. I wasn't like, dear Rockwood Music Hall, prior to me asking to play your stage, I just want to first say how I hate you.
You don't want to go, hey, listen, are you less stupid for this booking? Are you less stupid?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Are you less, right.
But I have a question.
Or are you actually listening to my music, or am I just going are you moving me into your spam folder?
Yeah.
Which any artist should be persistent with what they believe in if they want to do a certain thing.
Well, I think that's a valuable, to me, that's a piece of valuable advice is,
advice.
Look, this one I do think is advice because it's a mindset. If you're persistent with something, you're going to face rejection from time to time.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to understand, in your mature way, that you could have been rejected for literally any reason. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means this may not have clicked today. In your song example, for a vetted songwriter to say, this is the best song you've written in this entire 8-week course. Yeah. You're like, this is the first fucking song I wrote for the course.
How weird.
It's interesting. And I think as you've grown, I can probably say from my perspective of your relationship with the story, you've grown from that. You've reached a level of self-awareness and self-belief to be able to recognize that, like, each rejection I face is literally someone's in-the-moment opinion. There's no formulaic way that they're telling me, oh, you just offered me 2 + 2 is 5. Can't accept it. Go somewhere else.
What's different about radio music critique is that they're like, this is wrong, this is right. Mm-hmm. Or your look is wrong, this is right. With Broadway critique and stuff, which spans the gamut, but they're like, they'll say, I've been told in an audition room many years ago, they're like, you are great. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that voice is going to sustain for a 2-hour show. And I immediately knew exactly mechanically what they meant. They weren't like, and that's another thing, like Broadway stuff is like, you're just not the right look. Or they don't tell you shit. They'd say thank you, you leave. And it's your understanding based on your musicals training that it needed to be the whole package somehow. Now, granted, when it's like, the other day we saw Phantom of the Opera, the girl who played Christine, I was like, this girl is smashing it. What could possibly have been the tipping point of the number one Christine and number 2 Christine? What could it possibly be? And who knows? Maybe it could be even. They just have to call one they understand. You never know.
Right, yeah, sure.
But with music, I think they're like, because it is so... With a musical, it's written. You have to be able to hit this note or this note in order to fulfill the character's written needs. You're fulfilling a role. Mm-hmm. With music, it's very subjective. Music that you're writing. That they don't know how to say, like, well, you're just not a Jean Valjean. In my songwriting circle, they go, it's this word. I would have signed you to Atlantic Records, but it's just, you have a tendency to like write this word, and I don't like that. It's like, whoa, wait, that's freaking a weird opinion.
Yeah.
Musicals, facing rejection for musicals is also very difficult, but
sure.
And maybe at that point I was very used to facing rejection with musicals, the musical sector, but I do think they're different because
it's 100% different.
It's a character that's already written. If you can't sing it, as far as like look and type, thank God typecasting is depending on the director, changing
Yeah,
the casting director, becoming more open to
looks
stuff.
for different.
But if you can't sing the thing, you can't be like, Phantom, can we lower that? Can we lower that song like a thing? It's like, no,
the song's actually about a soprano, so you kind of have to be.
It's about exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting when you're told you don't. It's not necessarily their opinion, right? Like when you're auditioning, I'm sure auditioning for a play to get rejected from that hurts like hell.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily telling you that you're not enough. Yeah. They're just telling you, look,
you're not right for this.
You're not right for this. You don't necessarily fit this mold. And you can even though it hurts, you can kind of internalize that and go,
you've been trained.
Okay, I think I could.
Yes.
But okay.
Yes.
But when someone literally tells you, hey, this piece of art you created from nothing.
Yeah.
And it came from the depths of your soul, and you're as honest as you could possibly be.
You wrote it, you sang it, and you played it because you had to play an instrument.
Yeah,
also.
and I don't like it. It could be better.
Yeah.
You're like, stick it up your ass.
You're like, that's vague. Like,
yeah.
I get it if he was casting for like, well, Kat, this song really doesn't fit this Nashville. It's about like home, like your people's homes that I'm casting for. This really doesn't have that vibe. And then great, like a composer, I'll go back. If my music doesn't fit the feature film, I will make my fixes.
If there's a brief.
But it was just like, to be an artist.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
To be a creator.
But then, you know what? Actually, that makes me wonder if we were not told. Because if it was just to be an artist, people can't really argue what kind of artist you want to be. If you want to be like a punk rock skeleton girl, like it's like, all right, I don't listen to that kind of music, but I guess you're nailing it.
Yeah.
But what they didn't say, and what we wound up learning about it through the grapevine was that he was going by the Nashville songwriting brain, which is a whole different thing than like, and anybody who I listen to is not of that Nashville, especially at that time. Nashville was like very slowly becoming hip hop.
Yeah, it was kind of like becoming mainstream and formulaic, and
like I didn't grow up with things that I don't know, whatever. There, you know.
But even that,
but he was teaching. I guess he wound. I don't know if that guy even taught one fucking thing because we all just wrote. Here's an assignment: write a song, present your song. Thanks. It's
What's
like,
everybody think?
What, is he our babysitter? I could have just done this with my fucking friends in New Jersey.
Well, so that's the experience I've had in songwriting circles too, which is like you're in the room with a bunch of people who you kind of don't know. At first, you might get to know them over time, but oftentimes just a bunch of people who do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's show and tell.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And then, unlike what show and tell really is, they then get to tell you what they think of the thing you brought in.
Wait.
Hey guys, I brought my pet frog Leo in, everybody, for show and tell. I don't like him. Hey man. Hey.
So then, here I ask, and I'm sure I can feel our listeners squirming, then how the fuck, Rich and Kat, do you learn how to write a good song? If you're going to be all, like, protective of your music, Kat, and be like, no one liked Gambling Girl. Oh, believe me, I hear you.
Yeah, it's fine.
But where do we learn? Where do we learn how to... There's no good or bad... I just said a good song. Is there a good...
What does good mean?
What does good mean?
More people like it?
Yeah. Because fucking Next to Normal is a Broadway show, and I don't happen to like that show.
That's fine.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Right. And
Some people don't like cilantro.
Where do we... Yes.
It doesn't make it a bad herb.
But then, just as far as learning, where do we learn... With musical theater, very easy for me to tell you how I learned to be better at musical theater. I could tell you who I studied with, who I borrowed from, how I taught myself a lot just through watching like movies of shows, how to act. I have not taken the only acting class. I'm not even going to call it an acting class. I have never taken an acting class. I've only taken improv classes. Shoot me, but. Yes, never taken an acting class. How do we learn to be a better songwriter? I suppose if it weren't for that class where everybody hated and then loved Gambling Girl, I would not be the writer I am today. And maybe it was, I don't know, maybe I became more focused as to what to pay attention to that I was hearing him say to other people. I didn't like what he said to me. It just didn't hold water. But I did hear him say some things to other people, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, because I also respect that song. There were some people in that class that didn't like each other's music. It was fine.
That's fine, yeah.
And then I actually, because of that, I don't think then you hear the teacher's feedback as powerfully. Because I did like certain songs that I heard from other students, I did take his feedback of them. I was like, oh, I can wrap myself around that. And the music that they were writing was nothing like my own. So I was like, oh, I want to be like that. Maybe what teaches you, I don't know, what do you think about this? Maybe what teaches someone to just to grow in whatever they want to grow is they have to like it first. You have to really fall in love with something in order to be eyes wide open, mouth wide open, absorby about all the information surrounding that one thing that you're really excited about. Because if you're not excited about something, I gotta tell you, well, age old, people are like, I was bad at school because I just didn't like science. Well, if you don't like science or whatever, you're not gonna listen to what the teacher has to say.
Right.
But, actually, funny that I bring up science. My Uncle Gerard is a marine biologist. Mm-hmm. He had a teacher who really loved science, marine biology, and it opened up his ears and eyes.
Shifted him over.
It really, it totally shifted.
Yeah.
So maybe getting better at songwriting is simply just being so excited about something that you can't possibly explain. It's been endowed, it's been bestowed on you or whatever. And you just, it's inexplicable. Your focus in and of itself is your teacher. Ooh, that might be nice.
Yes, I agree with what you're saying. Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm. The chef.
Yes. Mike Tyson says he does not believe in talent. Mm-hmm. And I agree. And for anyone who has ever told me that they think I'm talented, I know it might come across as off-putting or that I can't accept a compliment. Yeah. But oftentimes I will tell them there's no such thing as talent. You can do what I do.
Oh yeah, because if one of their compliments is like, I don't know how you do it. I'm just a mere
man. Yeah, or like, oh God, I just don't. I could never. Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Yes, you could.
Right.
The talent. Here's my philosophy on talent, and I promise this isn't off in the woods here.
No, let's get off in the woods.
My philosophy on talent is that your talent is not how good at you are at piano or how good at you are at dance.
Yeah.
The talent that was bestowed upon you is your love for that thing.
Yes.
And so I always tell people, there you go, Mike Tyson, I don't believe in talent.
He's such a good chef.
Yeah, he can cook his ass off. The talent that you get is the innate drive that you have to work harder.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell everybody.
Yeah.
I've said this to I've had people up in age say, oh man, I always wish I learned how to play piano. And I always say, it's not too late. Yeah. And they go, and this is how people are conditioned. They go, oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
No, it's not. The only thing it takes to get good at something is your desire to spend time with it.
That's it.
That's like a songwriting class to me is like a class that teaches you how to love. You can't teach me how to love. The only thing, or you can't teach somebody how to have a good relationship. No, a relationship will organically be good when you meet somebody who you want to spend all the time with.
And that's the inexplicable part. Do I know why I want to spend all the time with that person? I don't know why. But it's very hard to then, when they say it's too late to play piano, it's like, wait a second, you just told me you want to. That's not we've been conditioned because it's too woo-woo or it's too magical. No one wants to believe in magic or the universe or quantum or whatever, God, because it's like that's not enough for them because they can't see it.
But some way they still do see it,
but they're like,
you have it though.
I want to touch that piano, but I'm 45, I can't.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second, but that's literally the first step is just recognizing that you want to do it. And they're like, not. And then I could just imagine them saying like, well, I also want to climb a mountain. And I'm like, okay, do that too. Like for you and I, we're just like, yeah, then do it. The fact that you said you want to is the allowance. You can allow yourself then to do it.
And then it's the perseverance because further, I want to go on record and just say when I said up in age, I didn't mean 45. I take this very personally.
I'm going to live till I'm 300.
I have a buddy who's, probably 20, 25 years my senior. And, he's very, very into what I do and comes to my performances all the time. And oftentimes we'll have a chat. And he's a really sweet guy. And I've had this same conversation with him about how he wishes he can play piano.
Okay.
I have said to him before, I said, what if I told you that all you have to do to get good at piano is sit at it and play it for 3 to 4 hours every single day? Forget it. Then you don't have the talent. That's the talent. The talent is the will. It doesn't feel like discipline. When I sit at an instrument,
3 to 4 hours a day.
I mean to get masterful at it. Anyone
in
can
a
learn
year?
in whatever time. It doesn't matter. You're not gonna master the piano if you don't want to sit at it all the time.
I agree.
You can get good.
Yes, you have to want to sit at it.
You can learn to play.
Yeah.
And first of all, anyone can learn to play.
Absolutely.
I've seen seals fucking learn how to play instruments. Anyone can learn to play. Now, if that seal wanted to play, a Tchaikovsky piece on those horns, it's going to have to rehearse for 5-6 hours a day.
It's got no fingies.
Got just the nose.
It's just got a nose.
But to me, the talent, the gift, I'll just call it the gift.
Yeah.
Or the blessing, people love to say that. God, you're so blessed. Whenever they see somebody who does something.
Well, they're right, I guess, with that.
Sure, but it all depends.
What they're talking about with blessed is that you can do that. What it should be focused on is the blessing is that you were. No, well, maybe they are.
That you want to do it.
That you want to do it.
To
which
me,
then
that's the switch.
Quantum physics, like when you were born, quantum was like, you're gonna play or like piano.
I can't necessarily personally speak to that. I don't know
can't
if
either,
that's. I don't know if you're
because
born with anything,
you're
or
right.
if it's just a thing that happens to you at a certain age.
Right.
I think there's people who get masterful at things later in life.
Yeah.
They come to realize, oh my God, I want to become a public speaker.
Yeah.
I'd never thought in a million years that could be a thing for me.
It's really, you know what it was then? What I do recall now is because I was writing a song once a week, which I had not been doing.
The discipline was
there. It was the discipline that was opening up my communication with my muse, as they say, as my and also it gave me courage, I think. Writing a song a week really was enacting courage because I used to be a person who thought that, oh, well, it's really whenever the muse strikes you, when the muse knocks on your door. And I'm like,
but it's been 6 months.
Yeah, right. And I do think if you just, the muse is just sitting down at the piano and seeing and playing. I think creation comes when we play. Yeah, that does. Yeah, the class or just someone. I mean, you could have been the one like, okay, Kat,
100%.
We're doing a husband-wife songwriting schmoo.
Yeah, I'm just going to hold you accountable as a partner in all this.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you
it was
earlier.
Just the accountability.
Yes, and to that degree,
right.
I think that I'm not sure what you would even call them. Not classes, but like organized sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like what would you call that? I don't know. Like the equivalent of organized sports for songwriting. I don't know. Like
a class.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess
I'm taking
whatever.
a class tonight.
Sure.
Book club.
Sure.
You're reading that book wrong.
I was gonna ask you earlier, or just mention earlier, like anybody can get healthy. You don't particularly need a fitness professional to help you get healthy. The only time you need a fitness professional is when you have no desire to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And this person's going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
But if you do have a strong desire to get healthy,
yeah.
literally every functional person understands that eating a baked potato is probably healthier than a bag of potato chips. Right? We all get it.
Yeah.
It's just, do you want to put the work in? Do you want to hold yourself accountable? Do you want to do this? So like to that effect, maybe songwriting classes are helpful in that it's kind of it's a guided discipline.
And then you have to take the leap.
Then you have exactly.
Yeah.
Then it's on you.
Yeah, it's on you.
Yeah, but as far as like teaching someone to be funny or teaching someone to write a good song, what's a good song? I might hear a Bob Dylan song and be like, this is a piece of trash.
Right.
And someone else is like, you're a moron. That's the best song I've ever heard in my life. There's no better song than that. And I might be like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're both correct.
And it's about the framing of things. I think people are conditioned because we're like, what role in the play did you get? What job did you get? Oh, your salary is higher than me. Mm-hmm. We all want to label and make sure things are compartmentalized in a good, better, best scenario so that we can understand it more. But if it was framed loosely, like this class is like, hey guys, we're just 12 schmoes getting together every week just to kind of invigorate that flame. I'd be like, down to pound, cool. And then I was just going to like rap there. And everybody is ready to give cool feedback.
It's a great rap.
Even, you're welcome. Or even like the bad, like the, hey, maybe you can make that better. Feedback wouldn't come across as, they wouldn't even want to use the word better. They'd be like, hey, try this.
Right.
Try this.
And like excitedly.
Excited. But this was like, you see, my dear. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, fuck you. And because it was framed as like this is Joe Schmo's songwriting class. We're like, whoa, Joe Schmo's credentials are crazy. What's that radio thing you always say?
The Spanish one?
Yeah.
97.9. La Mega se pega.
Yeah, that's what I come to Joe Schmo's. I'm just a mattress commercial.
Well, you know what the crazy thing is, Kat?
I'm saying like the framing of that, we're like, ooh, whatever Joe Schmo says.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going to go.
Joe Schmo, I actually don't care. I didn't care. I remember feeling it. There was one girl who not nicely told me how I could change a song that I did. Not rudely, but not excitedly. It was more like the robotic framing of everything. I remember hearing her feedback and I was like, bitch. And I was like, moving on, didn't hear a word she just said kind of thing. But anyway, yeah. It's all about framing.
I'm going to say something possibly triggering to some listeners.
Yeah.
But here's the biggest problem I feel with the story you're telling. It's almost too religious.
Yeah.
In that it's like the claw. Everybody,
it moves.
Like the class at large felt everybody looked to the leader to say, what do you think about the song on week one? Yeah. The leader went, it could be better. And then everyone went, could be better.
And they all amplified what he was saying.
Right.
And they did it in their own unique way. They weren't like, how can I adopt Joe Schmo's voice?
Actually, yes.
But they were like, good point. It's like, whoa.
It's all bullshit. It's like the scene in Men in Black where they open up the locker and Jay's watch is in there and they've all like erected like a statue. And this is like the timekeeper and they all look at Will Smith like,
right.
And he said like, they have like a video store card and they're like, every Tuesday is giving because it's like free Tuesdays or whatever.
Oh.
Like they turned like these just innocuous items and they gave it all this power and meaning.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes a lot of instructors and teachers wield that sort of power a little too freely.
I think so too.
They don't say, very rarely do you get a teacher say, listen, this is my opinion.
Yes.
They sit on their throne and they go, gambling girl, you say, huh? What gifts do you bring? And like you go, this is my song. What do you think? And the teacher goes, They almost have like that.
What are
like
you talking about?
I'm talking about as I mentioned when I started, the biggest problem I have, me personally, with this is whatever. Fine, teacher guy. If you don't like it, fine. The problem, though, is because he's in a position of quote unquote power.
Yeah.
He's not careful with the way he's presenting his opinions, and therefore his quote unquote followers. What I'm saying is, I don't like fucking tastemakers.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think
Fuck
it's a
your
thing.
Influence.
Hey man, first of all, do you put your pants on one leg at a time in the morning?
Yeah, do
if
shit
you
on
do,
the,
do you poop every day?
I was gonna say do shit on the couch, but I meant to say
do you shit the bed?
Do you shit the bed?
Have you shit the bed in your life? If you have,
You're just like
get out
me.
of here.
Get out of
and
here. You're
Stop
just like
trying
me.
to tell everybody what's cool and what's not.
Yeah, for sure.
Let everybody think for themselves, and again, you as the,
nourish that
and you
too.
it's up to you
Yeah.
to learn. Here's the problem as I'm getting closer and closer to this nugget, but like the problem with these classes is that one person steers the boat, and then everybody almost has they have no choice but to piggyback on that.
These classes are pumping out the same songwriter. At the end of the day,
to a degree,
you were an
yes.
individual, and then you come out of these classes and you're going, Nashville songwriting structure.
Yeah, well, sort of. I think that there's some free thinking within it, but the ultimate problem that I see is that you presented a song, changed nothing. About it. And suddenly, it's now the best one you've written so far.
Suddenly see more.
It's like, this has happened to me too in numerous, things too. Like you'll go in and they're not acknowledging that the impact of art can fluctuate. And the same piece of art might make you cry. And that same piece of art the following day might make you laugh. And then the same piece of art the following day might make you feel absolutely nothing.
A lot of their feedback it's a little too structural, meaning there's no like, oh, I see what kind of artist you are, Kat. Oh, yeah? I see what kind of poet you are. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's something you might be able to try, because I see that you're kind of like this girl, like, talks about, I don't know, ghosts a lot.
Sure.
Age-old joke about indie music is like, how many things can how many ways can we incorporate? There was a ghost in the field and I went to the barn, and it's like, oh
how many ghosts in a field does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Exactly, right.
Just one singer-songwriter.
Indie music in early 2010s, I guess. It's too structural, and then you start to lose. Yeah, you start to feel that anything you did give of yourself isn't being absorbed at all. Like, oh wait, I thought you, like when I would play my song, I thought that they were hearing the acting, the delivery, the this, the that. Based on their feedback, it was very structural and very like, no, we use an Oxford comma here kind of thing.
Yeah.
That in myself, and this is I'm just going to use the word fault because we can get into the words and, the right words to use, but that's my responsibility to then speak the narrative of, Kat, that might be their feedback. Don't make it mean that you're not acting your song enough. Me, I was like, oh, wait. So like, wow, I thought I was acting my song out. They got the vibe. Their feedback doesn't match the kind of artist I am. Maybe they're right, because all their feedback has nothing to do with artistry. It just has things to do with, like, as they call in songwriting, real estate, which I will from time to time use that term, which is real estate. Like, if you have a 4-minute song, make sure you are telling enough of your story and connecting with your audience enough that they walk away satisfied. But even just that sentence that I just spoke, fuck.
Bullshit.
What do you mean satisfied? What is?
You're going to tell me that Stairway to Heaven's a garbage song? It's got like a 4-minute solo in it.
Tell Radiohead that I think you need a little more lyrics, Radiohead. And Radiohead's like, fuck you. I like to just say one word every minute.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
And that's the artist's license. As an artist, you just get to pick and choose how you want to get your message across.
Just tell me that I'm not your girl for your Nashville songwriting team that is going to write a song for Taylor Swift.
Right.
Just tell me I'm not going to work as a songwriter. Tell me I'm an art. How about this? Don't tell me shit. Tell me what we were just talking about, which then we got into the woods a little bit. But tell me the teacher who recognizes they are in power. I freaking hate that word. But that they have a responsibility to nurture people. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're nurturing, not telling them how it goes.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're bowling, you're like, I don't know how they keep getting strikes. But it's like they're doing the as what has been previously known as the granny toss with two hands of the bowling ball. They'll wind up getting a turkey in bowling, and your ass is like doing the one-handed swoosh down.
I got a 70-degree curve on my thing.
And you score a 70 and they've scored a 140 and you're like, I don't get it. It's like, well, I was just doing it my way, man. And I still fucking beat your ass.
And so what do we do then? So we get a teacher now to like analyze how this person does the granny bowl? Like, no,
right.
And
I don't know what's legal and illegal in pro bowling.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that either, but I can speak to teachers.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to that.
Whether it's niche coaching of like a specific segment of an industry, or it's like an English teacher or a math teacher. I think teachers often don't recognize that their part of their job is influencing the way their students are going to grow.
And it's okay, because it is kind of the point, to make your student flourish better than, I hate the better best thing, but even more so than you did. Like, I'm just, like that professor made me feel that I could be an astronaut. It's like, well, they both hold beautiful value. I think it's when the student, they might feel like the student is getting one on them, like getting one over them. It's
Maybe.
like, whoa, wait, no.
Like any position of power, I think ego can be a real game changer. It can immediately turn a situation into a negative one.
Right.
If I definitely have had teachers who do not like to be questioned. They don't like when maybe you have an opinion that they don't want to deal with. They'll shut you right down.
And that's because they have identified with teacher instead of identifying with, I don't know what, like human.
School got really easy for me later in life. I had always, like we talked about earlier, I've always been an overachiever in school. I was nerdy, to use the word. I don't
like that word.
I know, I'm joking. But I was studious.
Yeah.
And always got good grades.
Yeah. I only don't like it because it's inaccurate. I like those adjectives.
Yeah. So I was into school. It was important for me to do well in school.
Love that.
But it wasn't always easy, right?
No.
But after a certain point in my educational career, at some point, like toward the latter end of high school, it became effortless because a switch went off in my mind that you have to learn how to learn. Once you learn how to learn, and we do not learn this, by the way. We don't teach this in the educational system. If you don't learn how to learn, you're constantly in the ocean getting flopped around by every wave that comes your way because you just don't know what to do.
Are you saying you don't intake information? That's the waves? What are you talking about?
I'm saying whatever a teacher throws at you, you are now left with the fallout. Your songwriting coach threw a wave at you, knocked you on your ass, mouthful of sand. What do we do with this now? Now suddenly this class is useless to me because I don't know what to do with what you're doing here.
Yeah, I felt that way.
Of course you did.
I wonder when the moment was. In the beginning of the class. At the end of the class, no brainer. I was like, this class was bullshit and a waste of time.
Right. Instantly, though, a growth moment for you.
Instantly,
so, like, inadvertently, the class suddenly becomes somewhat helpful, to your growth. But, I don't know. I think there's a...
And I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be the person I am today without it.
We're coming to the end here, but, like, one thing we haven't really totally touched on is... critiquing art in general, because oftentimes these songwriting circles, the purpose is to constructively critique. Very seldom, right, does anyone go, your song's a piece of shit, Joe. They go, oh, well, you could say it this way instead. And like whatever, they offer their opinions in a way that might open up a locked door for you.
Yeah.
But I think in general, critics of anything are just people who just think their opinion matters more than anyone else's.
Like the influencers that you were saying.
In an influential way. So like me, one thing that I have a hard time getting over in your story about your teacher is that everybody agreed that this song could be improved, lyrically, by the way. And then that same lyric suddenly was like, this is the best effort you've made so far. And everyone went ahead and agreed with it. And I think the issue I have with this is that like in art, we have this. We have movie critics. We have show critics. We have music critics and things like that. People who...
Yeah, and people follow blindly. And I just think...
Absolutely.
I mean, what I like to talk to you about on this show is you just gotta think for yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay. There's been many times that I have thought for myself, have had unique thoughts, but I just didn't exercise them as being enough to hold space and have value and have worth or whatever. So I would just like still go play the game that everybody else is playing. Oh, we're all playing volleyball right now? Okay, I guess I'll go play volleyball. Even though, yeah, I'd rather be bowling right now. But, and I just didn't. And it's not about like speaking up to change what's going on, but it's just feeling allowed to maybe not have to go to the volleyball court. Like maybe if you really don't want to go, you don't have to go. Like if someone in the class, if everybody was like, wow, Cat Gambling Girl is the best song. Like they were like really, really good. And someone was like, I could actually give her some really good feedback. They don't. Because even in a positive way, they're following everybody's positive feedback. They're
correct.
like, I don't want to be the one.
I
don't want to be the one to like wreck the vibe. Cat's really getting a lot of compliments right now. Meanwhile, the person could have totally bashed down a door in my creativity that let the floodgates open toward like excellent communication and like excellent poetry and whatever. It works both ways. So I think it's just always good we just want to encourage people because I always want to attribute a reason. It's not needed. There's no reason why there's plenty of reasons why I didn't think for myself and execute properly. But I think it's just now important that you do, like that you do understand your individualism as a person, not just an artist. I want everybody to understand that no matter what you do for a living, no matter who you are in your family dynamic, that the thoughts go through your head for a reason. And you don't have to follow like a little sheepy.
You don't have to follow. And if the teacher of that class, and I urge, anyone who might be in an influential position who might be listening to like just consider the fact that the more you're open to admitting that your opinions are your opinions, the more impact you're actually the more change you're going to make.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah. Why are you there teaching to begin with? Is it to just tell people how you did it?
Exactly.
Like, or are you here to nurture change in someone else the way their individual bodies will enact change?
And if I understand what you're saying, it sounds like you're saying like, are you really helping the student become the best songwriter they can be,
right.
Or are you helping a student become the songwriter you want them to be?
Yes,
because what if I'm teaching a songwriting class
Yeah.
and I am, let's just say I'm not a fan of a particular style of writing. Like, let's just say now a student comes in and they're the biggest Billy Joel fan in the world. And so like Billy Joel has influenced their writing. Whatever your opinions are about Billy Joel as an instructor they should be immaterial.
Exactly.
To your opinions about that thing. Yeah. So your teacher's opinions about the way you approached your song. I've had critiques of listen, in the music industry, just a little whistle blow here. A lot of musicians I want you to listen to this. We'll pay money to have someone critique our song. We'll pay money for
What is
it.
that? You have to explain what that means.
Oh, you heard me.
What water does that hold? Who are these people?
It doesn't matter. This is the point I'm making.
But you're using. Why would I want my song critiqued if I wasn't going to be able to show it off for someone?
Well, you do show it off. That's why you.
That's
pay
why I
for
want
it.
them to understand. Some people
I
don't
think
understand what we're talking about.
I think they get it. But anyway, the point is that what we do sometimes is and I'm sure it happens in film too. You will pay a critic to review your song from top to bottom, so that so and so from so and so magazine or so and so from so and so something has a sway over how good your song actually is, and you get this social proof.
Yes,
and then you get to tell people who might already like your music or might not like your music. Hey, if Joe Schmo from Joe Schmo magazine liked my song, you will too. Yeah. We see it. You see it in the Broadway commercials, right? Like the stingers of all the Broadway shows.
Yeah, Broadway's the worst.
The quotes, like a triumph,
greatest cast,
and then you see USA Today underneath it. It's like cool.
Oh, it's because
who cares?
Because everybody's a freaking sheep. They're like, well, if everybody's saying it's great,
it must be
it
great.
must be great.
And look, there's probably something to that, psychologically speaking, that like,
of course,
I'm just saying, there might even be like some universal truth to it. Like, if many, many people are willing to put their names on the line and say, I loved it, meaning, I'm willing to risk you knowing my taste. That's how good I thought this thing is.
Yeah.
Or was. Mm-hmm. That other people can kind of trust it. But we're telling you today, you need to think for yourself. And if you're creating your own art, you can't be creating art for critics. You can't. You can't be creating art for others' opinions.
That's what it is.
It's almost like trying to raise a child to please your neighbor. Because maybe the neighbor has a good kid.
Right.
Hey, fuck that neighbor.
Yeah.
The kids are different, and you guys are different. So there's so many, there's an infinitesimal gradient. There's infinite variables.
Yeah.
You're not going to, someone's opinion is just, you can't create art for someone else's opinion. You have to create art for what makes your heart go, what makes your blood go. And, I certainly couldn't find myself waking up every morning going, okay, what piece of art am I going to create today so that this person really supports it, and we if you're a listener of the show, we don't like the word support, but I don't want to create something just so that you can like it. I want to create something that I love in hopes that when I share it with you, it opens up a piece of your heart in the same way it's opened up mine, or however way it opens up your heart.
Correct. Yeah. Not in the same way
it opens up mine.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, no better time than to put a wrap on this. Thanks for listening, guys. We love you.
Cheers.